Hi, everyone. Thanks for joining. I am here in a room with Sheriff Chris Fitzgerald from Barron County. He's going to be talking to us about internet safety today. I just wanted to lay out a couple of ground rules for everyone. And I'll let Sheriff fill in any details if needed, but we kind of talked about it a bit. And, he said if anyone has any questions, go ahead and just ask them. And ideally, if you can, as far as I know, nobody's muted or anything, so feel free to pipe in with questions over your phone or computer, whatever you're using. I will be checking the chat periodically, but I'm not going to be really as on top of it so that we can use the presentation. So if you have questions, feel free to ask them as they come up. And if anybody's having any technical issues, let us know and we'll do our best. Go ahead.
That sounds great. All right. Well, thanks everyone for joining in this afternoon, or this afternoon now, about internet safety. And this is a presentation I put together with NetMech, our National Exploiting Missing Children. They have a NetSmarts program, and we've added a few tweaks of our own. In this presentation, I could care less if you guys want this and use it. We have no problem. We're just going to run through some of the slides, and maybe we'll skip some because we go into some detail if we had a group of parents or around, or some discussion items, but just ask questions as we go. So obviously we go through the definition of what online is, and that's the computers or laptops or gaming devices or tablets. We could probably get rid of MP3 players pretty soon because we don't have them anymore, but that's what NetSmart started with. So we update this every year, by the way, and add to it as we go. So what do our kids do online? Teens are more connected than ever, and I think 90% of teens are online. That's probably higher. They're online about 5 hours a day. As parents, we think our kids are online about 3 hours a day. So 73% of teens are on a social network. Again, I think that is increasing every day that we have, that we're out there with our kids and our cell phones. And 37% send messages to friends every day. That's probably more like 100%. So they are more connected than ever, and that's what we do talk about. So some of the issues or security issues that we see out there: the inappropriate contact, the online privacy, the sexting, cyberbullying is a big one that we start to see around. So everybody talks about what age we should talk to somebody. Younger children, those are some of the words we use. To the teens, we use some of the real words. And what we've determined and what we've seen through some of my school officers, I have school officers in just about every school in the county, or the police department does. We touch every school, is we use the real words. We don't try to sugarcoat it at all. We look at the words that we would see online, like the word sexting. Now, maybe with a younger child, and we're talking probably 10, 11, younger, and then the teens is really 12 and up. That's the kind of the cutoff that we're using for some of the words. And so that's some of the different terms that we would use. So we look at what inappropriate content is, and we look at pornography, violent hate speech, and risky or illegal behaviors. That's what we're kind of shooting for to teach our parents about and talking to their kids. And what we really talk to the parents about is how to respond to a kid that they find doing something. And a lot of parents, and I'm probably one and guilty of it, is we just get mad right away and we start saying, how could you look at that? Well, that's not the right way to do it. We need to not frighten them. We need to listen attentively. We need to tell them it's not their fault, or some form of that maybe. Answer questions, and then help them report it. I think what the best medicine that we're finding is there we go. We got it figured out now. Proactive is a better reactive, and that's what we really want people to do and talk about. And as a parent, what we want to do, and I went to a presentation in Eau Claire On pornography, a couple weeks ago at the big church in Eau Claire, can't think of the name of it off the top of my head, but and they had a pretty neat thing on pornography, and don't create consequences you can't keep. And I thought that was, and they went into some detail about that, and I think that's really, as providers or as people that are helping our parents, I think that's really key. Is I'm going to take your cell phone until the end of summer. Well, that's not a reality in today's world. We can't take kids' lifelines away because they use them in school, and we use them to track them, and we use them to find them and to know when their basketball practice is done. So you have to look at, some different consequences out there. But conversations versus confrontation, I think that is really key to this, and trying to be calm the whole time that you're doing this is very tough. But that's something I'm working on with my own 2 kids as we speak. So what should they do as a child, no matter if they're 10 or if they're 15? Turn off the screen so that I can just turn it back on and see what you were looking. You can use the back button, but you need to make sure that they're telling a trusted adult. And you can report it to the website or app, and I don't know that that's really as effective as it used to be because these companies don't care as much, but there is some validity to telling the website they have some inappropriate conduct or content. We're battling with Walmart and Amazon this morning, our drug team, because of the Santa sweatshirts with cocaine on them. So our prevention specialist sent something out to Walmart and Amazon saying that they were still selling the Santa shirt, says let it snow, and Santa's got lines of cocaine on it. Walmart is good, but Amazon has it as of this morning. Not because of us, because of a lot of other people that were complaining about it. So it's okay to report it to the website. You might get some action. So we always teach our kids what not to post. Obviously, we have to be somewhat specific. The offensive language, the threats of violence, underage drinking, hate speech. We always tell them about pictures, but it's also some of the language or some of the words that they type that go along with it that we want to remind kids to do. You need to, establish the expectations. You need to set the consequences like we talked about before. Usernames, a lot of these gaming systems require usernames now. So you want to make sure that their usernames are appropriate. Review comments, and we want parents to be involved. I know they may not be involved and know a lot about the gaming system, but sit down with your kid and say, hey, how's this online gaming work? It's pretty impressive when you can have this online gaming thing and your kid's yelling in this microphone and they're like, who are you talking to? And they're talking to 7 different kids from 7 different cities around northwest Wisconsin or across the globe. So it's kind of unique, and then it gets like you're involved in your kid's life and you're showing some interest in something that they really enjoy. So we ask parents to play along, even though if they can't play the game, just to listen to some of the content that these kids are saying and make sure it is appropriate. So, but it shows some interest in what they're doing. So online privacy, what's okay, pictures of family and friends. Again, this is maybe for that 8 to 12-year-old. What's not okay, posting your personal information. And you can have a conversation in a game, but you can't call derogatory terms or say, I'm going to kill you or whatever it is, whatever their game they're playing. You have to set those rules ahead of time. Obviously, this one's pretty self-explanatory. Passwords, home address, location, cell phone numbers, email addresses. So that just kind of puts a brief synopsis on that, and we're going to jump right into cyberbullying, which is bullying plus technology. So what is it? Oops. Name calling, posting fake profiles. We're seeing more and more of that because it's easy to create a profile. So that's probably our biggest thing that our school officers are dealing with is fake profiles. We even have fake profiles here at the Sheriff's Department so we can follow people. So it's pretty easy to create a fake profile, and then that comes up with making up the false information. And we'll get into some of that. Sending a mean text, photoshopping pictures, fake profiles, fight videos. We just had a case where we had a high school kid spent some time in the Barron County Jail because he challenged a kid to a fight and posted it on video. And there was an athletic code violation and a lot of different things, but he spent 10 days in jail for doing that. So at 17 years old, there's a recent local case where a high school athlete is, didn't get to play football for 9 games this season, spent 10 days in jail because he was 17 years old and he punched a 16-year-old kid. But he posted it, kind of premeditated. There were some other factors involved, but the judge didn't really care. He punched a 16-year-old kid and sent him to jail. So there's some real-life examples out there that are local that we can use that really make a better impact on kids. Rumors and gossip, that's really where we're going. So the difference between cyberbullying and bullying is no one bullies anymore because it's easy to cyberbully, and I can do it from home. It's faster, a wider audience, and it follows you home. If I bully you at school and you leave school every day at 3 o'clock and I don't see you because you live across town or in the next city over, then I can't even bully you because I won't see you. There's no safe place anymore. That's the problem with cyberbullying, is that the safe place used to be home or used to be school. It follows these kids everywhere because they have their phone on them. So we look at cyberbullying from 3 things: the bully, the victim, and the bystander. And I really like to concentrate on the bystander. And I think we'll have a stat here just shortly that shows some local Barron County numbers that we threw in here. So cyberbullying victim, how do I know if my kid's a victim? Well, they might stop using their computer or cell phone. If my kid didn't have her cell phone in her hand, that's a clue or a sign I should be asking why. They act nervous when receiving an email or text message, uneasy about going to school, they're withdrawn. We have to look at this from a victim standpoint. So how do you help? You save the evidence, you block them, you can set up a new account, you report it, talk to the school. I know our school principals are dealing with this on a daily basis. So if I'm the bully, what behaviors do I look for if I think my son or daughter is a bully? They switched open screens or they closed programs. They're using computers at all hours. They get upset if they can't use the computer. If I'm a victim, I don't really care. But if I'm the bully, I'm the exact opposite, because I really want there to be, I want to get on there, I want to see who's looking at my posts, and I want to see if they're having an impact, if I'm getting the attention. Bullies don't do this they do this for attention. They don't do it to bully. And a lot of people think it's just so that I can keep saying the sheriff is dumb, but it's really who's paying attention to me that thinks the sheriff is dumb. And so they're looking for the number of followers or whatever, the likes. Or they use multiple accounts. So that's how I tell if someone's a bully themselves. You set expectations, you set consequences, and you model good online behavior. That's how you prevent it. And this is the big thing that I really want people to key on when we talk about it, is we have to quit being bystanders. We have to tell our kids to protect their friends. They protect themselves first, their friends second. They have to help the victims report it, whether that's, hey, let's go tell the principal, let's go tell your mom, I'll go with you. Whatever it is, we really have to encourage our bystanders because they can really stop this problem that we're seeing. So obviously it can occur anywhere. That's pretty logical. But these are some Barron County numbers from previous years. 42% of kids in Barron County reported being bullied online. 1 in 4 have it more than once. 9 out of 10 middle school students have expressed being upset or bothered from a posting online. But 75% of our kids have visited a site bashing another kid. And that's the number that I like to concentrate on, is that if we can get rid of the bystanders, we're going to get rid of the bullies. Because bystanders are what fuels a bully. And girls are way more likely to do this than boys. So they believe they're anonymous. They're easier than face-to-face, less chance of getting caught, and they can enlist the help of others. And people like it. They get the attention, immediate attention. We're a society now of immediate satisfaction. We like to have our cell phones. Many of you are looking at your cell phones right now instead of looking at the screen probably, like I am. I mean, it's just our information comes instantaneous to us, and our kids are just like that. And that's why we're that instantaneous society. So what do you tell your kids if you hear a rumor? Hey, I don't want to talk like this. I don't, if they hear it, they'll be upset. That's how rumors get started. We've got to give our kids tips on what to say. So if you're being bullied, we ask you to not react. I know that's the toughest thing to do, but again, if the bully shows that it got me upset, then I got the power. The bully's got all the power. You want to change your profile and secure your passwords. You want to block or delete the bully. They can create a fake pass, but that's just, make sure you know who your kids' friends are. On Facebook or Instagram, and I know that Instagram and some other ones are thinking about taking away the likes and the different things to try to stop some of this. And so there's big companies are working with law enforcement and parents alike to stop some of this. There's a lot of pressure to be someone you're not. That's what's out there. That's what our kids are dealing with on a daily basis, and we have to remember there's a lot of pressure in our high schools and middle schools. So what do? Do not respond. You save the evidence. Sometimes we can do something with it. Sometimes we can't. Just because I call you dumb doesn't mean we're filing a police report and we're doing something. Doesn't mean we won't just drive over there and say, hey, you're bullying someone, knock it off. But we have to take a stand. And I tell our high school kids all the time, I'm teaching a class on Friday on drugs. And if our kids want to be bully-free or our schools want to be bully-free or drug-free, our kids can do it tomorrow. It's just as we as adults have to really encourage our kids to stand up, take a stand, and let's go make our schools drug-free or bully-free. And I always tell our kids, if you want to make the school drug-free, I'll call in 50 cops today, and we'll go make our school drugs-free today. Because they know where the drugs are. They all raised their hand. I said, if I gave you $20 and you can have free will inside the building of the school, could you get marijuana? And every one of them said, yeah, it'd take me a couple kids, but I could find some marijuana in every one of our high schools. I don't care if your high school is 100 kids or 900 kids or 1,000 kids. We all have the same. It's just the proportion of marijuana. So obviously just some basic safety tips on using the internet. Don't talk to strangers, all that kind of stuff. Don't post pictures of yourself, all that stuff that we beg our kids not to do. We just got to make sure that they're doing it or not doing it. So what really happens to a message, and a lot of kids, we try to get them to realize that their messages get sent and get stored. So if I say, I'm going to blow up the school, and then I send it to my buddy, and then I hit delete, well, that message is out there, and we can reach out into the cloud, grab it. We have the machines. All of our counties have these new machines. They cost about $10,000, and we can have all your deleted text messages, your photos, some of your Snapchats, all backed up through the cloud. So sometimes Snapchat is a touchy one. Sometimes we can get stuff. Sometimes we can't. But the messages, text messages, deleted photos, everything like that, we can get out of the cloud. So realize that there's stuff out there. So there's some apps out there. The best app that I found that's free is Life 360. It's a tracking app. It even tells you how fast your kid's driving if they're in a car. Even if they're not in their car, it tracks the speed by their phone. It's pretty accurate. Within a few, probably within 5 to 10 yards, I've found, unless they're inside a steel building. But even I can track my kids pretty much in their high school, in the Rice Lake High School, both my kids go, and I can kind of tell what end of the high school they're in on the Life 360 app. They don't like it. I don't care. It's just something that you have to set rules, and it's just a peace of mind for a parent. Obviously, with what happened in Barron County, these apps become more and more popular, but Life 360 is the newest one that I've seen. Doesn't charge a thing. So, but monitoring is mandatory. I think we need to really push that on our parents. I don't do a very good job of it, but I hope my wife is doing a good job of keeping track of my kids, because while I teach it, I kind of put that on her, because I don't know. I think I get too mad. But again, I'm trying to get to the point of not getting mad and trying to stay calm when I see what they're looking at or what they're telling their friends. But it's the idea that monitoring is mandatory. So sexting, we're seeing more and more of this, which is kind of sad because we think we've done a pretty good job of promoting it and telling people not to do it. These are national numbers, not local numbers. 2.5% of teens have sexted, and 7% said they've received a sext. So, I mean, that seems like a small percentage, but we're talking this is comes from NetMec, which is the United States wide. That's a lot of teens, a lot of kids, and so we see it. Our school officers are seeing it more and more. It's pictures. So they do it to be funny, to impress a crush, and to share with a boyfriend or girlfriend. And that's what we're seeing. But your photo fate, and that's the problem, is that's the kind of the picture you see is, I got this picture of my girlfriend and he shows 3 buddies because he wants to be cool. Or he screenshots it and sends it to them. And they send this Snapchat and they think it goes away. And if you screenshot a Snapchat, it stays forever. And then it becomes part of your phone. And so it's your photo fate. And that's kind of what we're getting across to some of these kids. So it's humiliating, it's bullying, it's blackmail. We're seeing a lot of that. If you don't send me another one, I'm going to send this one to the school or to your friends or to whoever, and get us involved in this so we can put a stop to it. We can clear people's phones. We can do a lot of different things as part of a, it doesn't mean, a lot of people think when they call the police, the SWAT team rolls up in your house and we come crashing through your windows. Just because you call the police doesn't mean a report's being done or someone's getting arrested. And we have to get over this movement of the SWAT team's coming just because I called the police. And we see that. So talk about the consequences. Tell them to never forward a sexting image. You've got to do something with it. If you're a 17-year-old boy and you get a picture from your buddy of a 15-year-old girl, you're possessing child porn. You've got to take immediate action. The deleting, showing somebody, telling somebody, doing something about it. I know you might get your friend in trouble, but you're going to save yourself. You got to remember, at 17, you become an adult, and if you're possessing child porn, registered sex offender, maybe jail time, probation, all this kind of stuff happens. And so it's really a big issue because of the age of our kids. And once you hit that 17, you become an adult and you play in the big boy league. And we really have to stress that to our kids. So, sexual solicitation, and you look at the Rice Lake PD, have done a very good job with doing this. I think they're at 14 people. They have one officer doing this really part-time, and they just post, I'm a boy looking for a good time, I'm 14 and looking to explore, and they get all kinds of guys coming from all over the area to solicit it. I didn't believe it, but hey, man, it's out there, and we're trying to work on something here at the Sheriff's Department to follow along because they're doing it just inside the city of Rice Lake, and we've kind of beat the area up that they're meeting in, so we're trying to expand that out into the county now, and I'm just afraid of what we're going to get. But it's, it's on social network, it's teens, it's soliciting by peers, it's just some people shrug it off, but there's a lot of people out there. Most of ours, I think 9 of our 14 have been sent to prison, and I think the other 5 are up very shortly to go to prison. So it's happening locally, and we have to do something about this, and we just can't have it out there. So, but they're groomers. They're very good at this. They're giving them gifts. So if your kid has been getting gifts and gift cards and you don't know where they're getting them from, it's someone grooming a child to do something. And we've become hypersensitive, everything from, churches to, sport coaches to just about everybody now is a suspect. But it's sad, but we have to do it this way. But that's what you kind of look for. Using adult status to control a child's behavior. And a lot of them will blackmail. They'll get one picture and then they'll say, you have to meet me or I'm going to send that picture. Well, then, they're going to meet them because they don't want that picture out. Then minimize the screen. You got to look for signs of grooming. You got to talk to your child. You got to set policies. You got to tell them it's not their fault if this happens. If they got caught up in something, you know, we'll get through it together, and we'll make sure you're safe. We know what sexting is. Send me one. We talked about that. It is a felony in Wisconsin for anyone under 18 to have nude photos. So it's difficult. You know, Texas, you know, 18 had a picture of a 16-year-old girlfriend, and they had a fight, and then she leaked the picture. You know, and she said he's got it. He did. So it happens. I'm just a kid. It doesn't matter the age of the photographer. Taking or possession of it is illegal. So just some sexting messages, or some stats, I should say. Online predators, you know, that's where we're seeing some of them. 50% posted personal information. You know, you got to look at your background of some of these pictures their kids are taking, what shirts they're wearing. Are they at Rice Lake, you know, high school, you know, whatever, basketball team, whatever. And this is what we really break it down to simplify it for kids. If you wouldn't show it to your parents, don't photograph it. If you wouldn't text it, don't write it. If you wouldn't say it to your parents, don't say it at all. We even sometimes change parent to grandma or grandpa, and kids seem to get it a little different than parents. It's all about their brain, and I have this slide in there. I'm not a brain expert. When we talk about meth a lot, you know, girls are 21, boys are 25 before it's fully developed. It affects their short-term decision-making, and that's where you see some of these bad judgments. So it's really the brain doing it, not just because they're kids. So monitor it, do it together. Teens want to be more independent. Parents want to reach them, you know, anytime they want. So we have to give and take both on your end as a parent and the teen's end. They have to give and take a little bit. And all you're doing is to protect their child. And you have to give and take. Set limitations and boundary. You know, 6 to 9 is iPads and tablets, and 10 to 12 is already smartphones. We have to lead by example. If that means putting the phones away at dinner table, you know, we've launched a Drugs Over Dinner campaign here in Barron County to talk about that, just because we want to increase the conversations with kids. Kids are very honest. The society of, you know, 18 to 14-year-olds are very honest with parents for whatever reason, and they'll tell you about drugs, or they'll tell you about sexting, or they'll tell you about their phone and what other kids are doing. So have some phone free time and just talk about these topics. So we know how texting works. You guys know how Facebook works. We're seeing a lot of fake profiles. We're also seeing some, this is where scammers are finding out you're tagging grandma, you know, went to visit Grandma Jones. Well, then they call Grandma Jones and they know the name of, you know, the grandson. And that's how they're saying grandson's in jail. So a lot of our scammers are doing this by Facebook when we tag everybody. Snapchat, photos are gone, but screenshots exist. Law enforcement can retrieve photos from the sender and the receiver. So there's some stats on Snapchat. It's huge. Twitter, I don't even know if people are using Twitter as much anymore. They're into Instagram and other things. Is it better or worse? If we get rid of the followers, I think Instagram will be okay. It's about finding the balance. This is the Wisconsin ICAC Task Force. This is a good sign if you're looking for tips. Protecting Kids Online, Wisconsin Internet Crimes Against Children Task Force. They have a Facebook page. They put tips on there all the time. I think it's a pretty neat Facebook page. This is something they had. You want to do something with your kids and their phone. These are 5 mobile apps that help kids spread kindness. And I think that you can do good things with your phone and show that it's a good thing. Technology can't catch everything, so communicate. Net smarts is a good thing, and that's kind of where I'll leave it. If there are questions online, I didn't check that.
Yeah, I've been kind of watching the chat room on my phone here. I haven't seen any come in. So, does anybody have any questions? Feel free to, if you're muted, I don't have the line muted, so if you're muted, feel free to unmute and ask any questions. I also have the chat room up on my phone, so we can see that as well. Does anybody have any questions they want to ask? Tell you what, if you all will indulge me a question, I know when you did this presentation a little while ago, you talked a little more at length about what law enforcement can do to track down these things. You talked about, and forgive me, I don't remember the details, but you talked about some examples where you had brought in the FBI to track some of these things down. Can you talk a little bit more about that? Because I think that might be valuable information for the folks on the line.
And obviously during the Claus case, we brought in the FBI and did a lot of tracking methods, but we use our machine, I can't get the name of it off my head, our cell phone machine, and we can download that stuff and we can we can use cell phone towers and we can determine if people are in certain areas of the county when a call is made. So there's a lot of things that can be done by law enforcement, because even if I say I sent this text message but I wasn't in the area, we can get what's called a cell tower dump and a cell phone dump, and there's some different terms out there that we do as from a technology standpoint. Even in the Jake Patterson case, he didn't take his cell phone with us because he knew his cell phone would put him in the area, and it would have if he would have taken it, and we would have had a better chance. So bad guys are getting smarter, but so are cell phone companies, and it's easier to track some things. Our cars now have internet in them, and so we can track some things using that. But the FBI doesn't really help us unless it's a major case. Our DCI guys, which is the Wisconsin Internet Crimes Against Children, they're the experts in it. That's what we use a lot to help us with these cases. If it's kind of a major case, a sexting case, they're probably not going to help us with. But we have the ability to do some of that stuff with subpoena power. I just can't call the cell phone company and do it. Now, we can do cell phone tracks if it's an emergency, a suicidal subject or something like that. We can do some cell phone tracking, but otherwise we have to have a subpoena and have a judge sign off on that.
Anybody else have any questions?
Appreciate your time, and this is available, or email me, or we got it here, and we'll make sure it gets out. If you want to use it, go ahead and use it. So I appreciate your time and your efforts to try to make our community safe.
Yeah, thank you, Sheriff, for your time. Just to restate, if you want this presentation, feel free to reach out to me. If you would like to have a presentation like this done for your organization or anything, I can also put you in contact with the folks that can help you with that. So thank you, everyone, for joining. This recording will be up here probably pretty shortly, maybe not today, but probably by the end of this week. So thanks, everybody, and have a great rest of your day.
Thank you.